Hey everybody, Damir here from the Presti team. So we recently made a bunch of updates to the platform, and I wanted to record a quick video to show you really the new functionalities of the platform and also how to properly use Presti. So since we made the last tutorial videos that you see on our YouTube channel, we basically revamped the whole website. There's a new UI to it, but there's more importantly also a new AI model to it. And today the goal will be really to show you how you can elevate your prompting and really write good prompts that will get you good results with our new AI model. So as a disclaimer, the new AI model right now, so when you're on Presti right now, I think today's December 18th, you will have 4 images, out of which 2 will be the new model and 2 will be our legacy model. The reason for that is simply that we're testing the new model and we're seeing, how the behavior of users will be comparing the two. But over, in the next couple of weeks or months, you can expect that all the 4 images that will be on the website will be of the new model. So that's just a disclaimer. Now, starting with a general remark, right now the new model, and again we're December 18th, is only available in the dimensions 1 by 1. So it will be available to generate images with the new model in different dimensions, but for now it's only in square format. But in general, all the advice and all the remarks that I'm going to give you in a couple of seconds are applying to both the legacy and also the new model. So the first step will be really to select 1 by 1 if you would want to generate images with the new model. Now, let's go through some do's and some don'ts for prompting. So really, the new AI model is diametrically opposed to the legacy model, in the sense that when you would prompt the legacy model with something very short, just say sofa in a living room, it would spit you out something and it would add a lot of different details to your room. Now the new AI model will literally give you a sofa in a living room and nothing else. So it will not add windows, it will not add special a carpet, a console, etc. So really the key difference between the new model and the legacy model is that you have to prompt it in a much more detailed way. So it starts by just at the beginning, and this again also is valid for the legacy model, by mentioning the product you're trying to stage. So really be detailed when you are staging, for example, a table. What kind of table is it? Is it a dining table? Is it a low table or a coffee table? Really be detailed and not just mention table. So that's the step number 1. Mention your product at the beginning and be specific about it. Now, the second thing that's really important and crucial for the new model is to mention the positioning of the product. So for example, let's say you have a sectional. And that sectionals in general are supposed to be, against the wall or in a corner of a room. If you don't mention the positioning of that product, it might just be in the middle of the room. So it's really important that you say, for example, sofa against the wall in a living room, or you say sectional in the corner of a living room. That's really key to get results really that match whatever you have in mind. So again, as with step 1, it's really about being explicit with the new model. Step 3, and the do number 3, is to really be detailed about the descriptions that you want in your room. So again, the old model would just imagine and basically hallucinate different elements to your room. With the new model, you have to be and you should be specific if you want to get the best results. Some of the things that you can specify in your prompt are the kind of style, so it can be modern, it can be Parisian, Scandinavian, cozy, whatever. The type of room, whether it's a living room or a dining room or a children's room, whether there's windows or curtains, whether, how do the walls look like? What's the texture of the walls? What's the color of the walls? What do we see outside of the windows? How is that view perceived? Is it, sharp? Is it blurry? Those are the things you have to specify. And then obviously flooring, carpets, artworks, decoration, and also the lighting, how the lighting looks. And lighting can be harsh, can be soft, can be diffused. So lots of things to really go deep into. So again, with step 3 as well from the do's, be detailed about your prompts. And really try to imagine the kind of picture you'd like to get the best results. And then finally, the last thing that I don't see a lot of people use is the negative prompting. So sometimes you will see that, for example, a very, very important thing for a lot of customers is that their product is the only furniture product in the photo. Otherwise, if you would have different kinds of furniture in your room, you might end up, with customers asking you, "Oh, can I also buy this side table right there?" And it might just be generated by AI. So to avoid things like these, you should use the negative prompting, and you can reach that by just clicking on Show Advanced Options under the prompt gallery. And there you can specify what it is that you don't want in your image. So for example, if you don't want furniture, you can specify furniture. If you don't want a carpet, then you can specify a carpet, and it will really exclude these things from being generated on your image. So that's really the fourth tip that I wanted to share regarding prompting with the new AI model. And again, maybe one thing I forgot, so it's also important that all the elements you have in your prompt are separated by commas. A lot of people are, putting full stops, and we'll get to that in a second, but use commas. It's a small detail. It won't make a huge difference, but it helps to really be more specific so that your generation turns out to be what you want exactly. Now, let's go over to some don'ts. Now, one of the don'ts, or one of the things I see people do a lot, is write sentences. They're talking to our AI as if it's a person. For example, "I want you to put this product in a cozy room." That's, it's not doing anything bad, but you should try to avoid it because our AI has a certain, what is called a context window. So it has a certain number of words that it can capture and then put in your image. And if you're using a lot of these superfluous or not useful keywords like "I want you to put this product," which doesn't really help, you're exhausting that context window, and so the rest of your prompt might not be perceived as well. So the best practice here would be to say just, "sofa in a cozy room." That's number one. Number two, I see a lot of people also use adjectives, so things like a generous or a welcoming, to describe rooms. Most people that do that are actually using other AI software like ChatGPT or Claude to help generate the promise. And the reason that's not good is because our AI doesn't, or there is nothing to associate with generous or welcoming in a room. So try avoiding these kinds of adjectives that don't really have a visual connotation, and instead use things like, cozy is something that works, or modern or luxurious. But as soon as you're venturing into like welcoming, happy, generous, it doesn't really help to get to anything. Now, the third point, on the other side of the spectrum, you have people that are writing prompts that are super short, like, for example, a chair in the living room. And the reason that will give you bad results is just because our new AI won't, infer what that kind of living room would look like. It would just give you a chair, maybe in the middle of the living room, and it won't really be what you want. So what you should try and do is, if you want a minimalist room, to describe what it would look like. I gave an example there, a chair in a minimalist living room with white walls, etc. So describe these things. Even if what you want is very simple, describe that simplicity using words and using real elements or real attributes of a room. Now, on the fourth point, so I'm saying that don't try to add things you're staging in your image prompt. And this might be hard to imagine, but what some people do is they will add their product in their canvas, like you see right here, and then in their prompt they will describe that they want something on top of their sofa, like, for example, a dog on the sofa. And the reason that's not going to work is because our AI is trained to not touch your product. And so when you're doing that at the generation, when you're writing your prompt, obviously nothing is going to appear on your product because we won't touch it. The way to do that, and I have some interesting examples to show later, is to use the accessorize tool. And that's really where where you can add things on top of your product. But don't do it in the prompt itself. Like, for example, saying vases on top of a console, or like dog on the sofa in this case. Really use the accessorize feature that is right here to do that. And there you can really select using a brush what you want, what area you want to paint, and what you want to change. And then the last tip, and this ties into the rest, we don't recommend people to use other AIs to generate prompts for them, simply because if you're just asking an AI to generate, a prompt for a nice living room, what it most often will come up with is that it will use a lot of adjectives, a lot of full stops, prompts that are way too long, not adapted to our specific AI. And so while it can give you inspiration, and it can adjust your prompts when you start from something, it's not a good place to actually start with. So try to avoid that too. Now here's some examples of good and bad prompts. You can stop the video and then just read through them and see what is different. But really, what I want to highlight here, so on the negative one, you have one example that's super short, and then on this example right here, there's a lot of talking, basically just describing in words, and like you're talking to a human. The product is a chest of drawers. I want a warm atmosphere with light beige wax concrete floor. Those are things that don't really add a lot of value to our AI. So instead, you would say something like chest with drawers, light beige waxed concrete floor, against the wall, instead of saying the product must be in the background against the wall. So yeah, and then here's two examples that you can use and try really use this maybe as a template as well for your prompting. Let's go. And then some obvious things that people often are saying. So, what if my product is floating? So that's a common thing. This is actually somewhat related to prompting. But if your product is suddenly floating in the image, the two quick fixes you can do is simply go into the edit menu and then use the resize tool, where you can change the scale of your product and also put it lower, basically put it back on the floor. But what you can also do, and what's important for our new AI, is that you can specify that in the prompt itself. So you would say something like sofa firmly on the floor if it tends to levitate, or if it tends to be a sofa that's really hard to interpret whether it needs feet or not. The second point is my product gained an extra leg or artifact, also a very common one. You can just use the magic erase tool to remove these, or use the negative prompting, as I showed you earlier, to mention keywords like legs or extra furniture to avoid things like that. And then my product looks too big. So I recently had an example where someone was trying to generate children's sofas, and our AI interpreted it as a real-sized sofa. So what's important here is, again, you have the quick fix, which is using the resize tool. But what you should do with the new prompting is you should specify what kind of sofa. So it goes back to the very first point, where you have to say exactly what kind of sofa it is. So in this case, you could say something like a mini sofa or a children's sofa or a small love seat, to really help our AI understand what it is that you're trying to set in a scene. So that concludes really the part on prompting. Now, some other things that come with our AI, with the new AI, is that it is now very good at generating text. So what you see right here in these three examples is paintings, neon signs, and wooden signs that are reading a certain text that I specified in my prompt. So for example, the first one, I wrote in my prompt an abstract artwork on the wall reading "Summer is getting closer." The second one, I wrote a neon sign on the wall reading "Happy Holidays from Presti," as you can see right here. And the third one reads just Presti with wooden letters. So that's something that you can try and experiment with. Perhaps you want to, convey a message to your customers or the people that are seeing your photos, or you want to add, your branding or your own touch to some of the images. So that works really well with the new AI. And then something else that's really interesting that works astonishingly well with the new AI is that it now also understands depth of field. So if you would want to have some elements in front of the lens, so imagine it like you're using a camera and you're shooting your product. If you would want to virtually add something in front of the lens, you can do that now by simply describing something like a ficus tree in the foreground and a blurry bokeh effect. So bokeh, for those that don't know, it's the terminology in photography that's referred to when something is out of focus. So you see right here, we added like a foreground element, a ficus tree. Right here, we made it so that the background or the outside of the window looks blurry, and we added a Christmas tree in the foreground, and here we added also some leaves in the foreground. So this can really create a really nice effect that adds to the realism for your pictures. And then the third thing that's really exciting is you can also add humans and people into your photos. So as you can see, these look very real. You simply do that with the accessorize feature. So going back to the very beginning, right here, you can add it's important to note that it's before the generation. You just click on accessorize, and then you'll be able to generate humans to your images. And here, prompt is very simple as well. A woman with a brown hair sitting on a sofa, dressed chic, etc. And then you will be able to add these to your product. So here is also what's relevant maybe. The area you select when you're doing the accessorization should be the area really where you want the person to be as well. It's obvious. But for example, here, if you would want to have the feet extend on the floor and so that it looks really realistic, you would have to extend the area you select beyond the actual sofa. But yeah. And yeah, so that's basically it. So I hope you liked this, got some value out of it. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions. If you want this presentation, then I'm happy to send it to you. But yeah, we hope you like these new updates, and we're looking forward to see what kind of images you can come up with. Have a great one, and yeah, see you soon. Bye.